What is going on, guys? Blazing Tech here. Today we're going to be doing some more Tacoma content. Now, what I've got for you guys is how to weather seal your third gen cap, or any cap really. I have the ARE V series, kind of the most basic model here. I picked it up used, but this will work for any truck camper shell. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the third gen Tacoma, and I'll tell you guys where I had the most difficulty sealing this thing up. But to me, I wanted to do this because although ARE did a good job of weather sealing it, I wanted to make sure that there's not going to be any moisture or any water that comes in here, because essentially that's kind of why we invest in a camper shell, whether it be keeping our gear, our animals, ourselves. For those guys that do a lot of camping, we want to keep all that dry. And if there's a lot of water coming into the camper, especially if you've got the carpeted upgrade, you know, that kind of defeats the purpose of having it. So without any further ado, let's open this bad boy up and see what I've got. So to begin with, foam tape was definitely something very, very popular that I used. So let's talk about what I put up in the camper shell, on the camper shell, before it ever touched the truck. And that would be this guy right here. Now, this is 2-inch wide by, I believe it's 1/8 of an inch. And I'm going to leave links down in the description below for all of my Amazon purchases. Let me just pull this up on my phone so you guys know exactly what this is. Yeah, this is 1/8 of an inch. It's 33 feet by 2 inches, and it's going to cost you $11.99. This is what it looks like on my phone right there. That's my Amazon order. And I did use most of it. As you can see, this is all that I have left. I used all the 33 feet. I kind of ran, because this is almost 4 inches right here on the ARE V series. So I kind of did two. I did one strip down here, and then I kind of overlapped and put another strip, and that was all around the camper. So all along this, all along that, and then obviously all along here. And I needed to use double for this, so 2 inches here, 2 inches there, and that covered all of the shell. But then of course over there it's not as wide, so I used about one of these over there. The next foam that I used, and I actually put this right up there on the back glass, because that is our most vulnerable point. So I kind of put it above and rested it on the bed itself, where the bed kind of connects to the cab. And this is really, really thick. I want to say this is almost like 2 inches tall, but let me give you the exact specifications on that. And that I had a little bit left over. Yep, this is 2 inches wide by 1 inch thick, and it was 6.5 feet, and this costed me $18.98. But I think that that is definitely the Achilles heel of all of the camper shell builds and setups. That's where the water is going to come through. And that's where it did initially come through when I did my first wash after using this method. And it only came through right there and right there. And we'll talk about that right now. But secondly, what went on the actual truck itself was this. And this is garage door sealer. And you can see I put it up here as well on my tailgate. But this is kind of the coolest part of it. And I put this kind of right on the edge. Like if we were to imagine that this was the portion of the bed rails on both sides here running parallel, I put it as close to the edge as possible right here, this bit, kind of like this. So that way, if water was going to come up and into the camper shell, it would have to not only get in between the shell and this. So I've got that foam layer again, remember, on the top, the foam layer, and then I've got this. But as you can see, there's a ridge, so the water would have to go up, and it would have to go in and up. And then it would have to pass over this ridge. And I did not get any water whatsoever when I did my first wash of the truck with the shell on it. And you can see that it runs, this camper shell runs along the lines great. But I did a really great job sealing that up, and I would definitely recommend that. I purchased 2 of these, and I know that off the top of my head, those were 9 feet long. I'm going to pull those up right now on my phone and tell you guys. These were $7.99. These were 9 feet long by 1 inch high, and 2 inches wide. So they raise an inch, they're 2 inches wide. And that was something that I wanted. I wanted 2 inches wide. And I used basically I used all of it. As you can see on my cap, because it was used, there was a tiny gap between the rear glass right here and the tailgate. So I went ahead and sealed this up as well. And this is actually really good for increased weather sealing. I epoxied this to this, as you can see here, that way it would stay. I epoxied that sealer. I have to do the same thing for this side, but it hasn't begun raining too terribly badly, and this is where the gap was on this side, so I just put this here for a little bit of added security. And probably the only downside to having this camper, and what I opted to do, was I used some quick seal touch and foam, as you can see here, because water was really only coming through right down there, and you can see where I put that foam and seal right there. And I've got a glob there as well as a glob right there, and let's see how that looks on the truck. So the only downside to this build, and I'll tell you, is that I kind of got in the back here and I got one of my friends to shine a flashlight down into the bed, and you could clearly see, and even in there you could clearly see, you know, daylight coming through. So obviously at that point water was going to come through too. So I used that foam and seal, and that costed me about $10, and I just shot it in here. And this side is much cleaner. I wish that I could get a little bit better lighting in there and show you guys, but essentially what you're going to do is kind of get in there, look and see where you see the light, stick that straw in there and just push it. So this foam and seal did a great job. And the only downside I could see is that you do have to spray this on your bed, but it's so minuscule, and honestly, like I said, I think this is like one of the cheapest ways you can do it. I got 30% off of this at Harbor Freight and Tools, so it costed me under $10 to use and do it, and I think it's fine. That's the only downside to doing what I did, is that you'll have 2 globs right there. Again, this was the first time that I had ever used it, so you guys might have a better experience if you're better at doing it than I was. But essentially, like I said, I wanted this to be weather sealed, so I can keep this in here. And this is some emergency supplies of mine. I got some clothes, a sleeping bag, a pillow, stuff like that. I don't want water to get into my bed, and that's kind of why I invested in the camper shells. Other than being inside and seeing those globs, there's nothing really ugly hanging over the side of the truck. Now this, I could just, X-Acto knife that, but that sealer, this sealing process doesn't really take away from the beauty of this ARE shell and kind of how it matches the lines. As you can see there's nothing ugly coming out of there. You'd have to know where I put that quick and seal to even look and see it. Only me and whoever's watching this video knows that I did that, and I think it's going to do its job great. But that was my method to sealing up your camper for a little over $45. But I'll tell you guys that it definitely does keep water out, especially on the side. There's guys that put epoxy on the shell, but they ended up having to take the shell off, and that's something I didn't want to do because I've got the sides all set and everything like that. So I think I did a great job of sealing it, and I hope this video helped you guys. If you're considering getting a camper shell, a used one at that, you should definitely think about weather sealing it. Or even if you have one and you have issues with water getting into your shell, this method will definitely help you guys out. I really appreciate you guys' undying support for the channel. The subscribers that watch my videos and comment on my videos, I really appreciate you guys. If you're new to the channel, be sure to check out my truck, because I've done some really cool mods, as you can see. I did wire this up and I tapped the third brake light, and there's a video out there for that. I added this. I think this is really cool. Boom. It's this little rinky step. I've never really used it, a little bit, but I think it's a kind of cool thing to have. You know, you saw my truck. It's a 5-speed 2.7. I did a video about how the 2.7 handles with a drop-in K&N, which is something I definitely recommend. But again, guys, I appreciate you guys supporting the channel. If this is your first time, be sure to check it out. And if you guys have been here for a long time, we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks.